Welcome to Computer Deconstruction, presented by the Half Hollow Hills Community Library. Here are some common tools to dismantle and take apart a computer: a Phillips screwdriver, a flat blade screwdriver, and a hex nut driver. Opening the computer and getting inside. Desktop and tower computers. Desktop and tower computers are two different styles of computer cases that use desk space in varying ways. Desktop computers are designed to lay flat on the desk, while towers stand upright. These usually can be opened by unscrewing a couple of screws from the back or moving a lever with your fingers. Here are some pictures below. There's a Dell desktop computer, an HP tower computer, and on the right, a gaming tower computer. All-in-one computers. All-in-one computers are just like conventional desktop computer systems in terms of features and functionality. The only difference is the number of components. While desktops are comprised of the computer case plus a separate monitor, all-in-ones combine the display and computer into one package. These can be opened by unscrewing some screws from the back and also possibly moving a lever. Below is a picture of an HP all-in-one on the left, a Dell all-in-one in the center, and an Apple iMac on the right. The inside of a computer. The inside of a tower computer is much larger and components are much larger. The inside of an all-in-one computer is more compact. All components need to fit in a much smaller space. The inside of an all-in-one computer is very similar to the inside of a laptop. Below on the left is the inside of a tower computer. You can see there's a power supply up to the top, CD drives, hard drives, CPU fan, and cooling fans. And compared to the picture on the right, which is the inside of an all-in-one computer, everything on the left is much larger. On the right side, the all-in-one, all components must be smaller to fit into that space. Computer parts. What's inside your computer when you take it apart? Removing components from your computer usually has certain steps. After you open the back of your computer, usually the first thing you remove is the RAM, then a hard disk, then a CD-ROM drive or DVD drive, depending on what you have. You can then remove some cables. The power supply would be the next component. And finally, the things on the bottom would be, the large board would be called the motherboard and CPU. RAM, Random Access Memory. Random access memory, or simply RAM, is the memory or information storage in a computer that is used to store running programs and data for the programs. Data information in the RAM can be read and written quickly in any order. Normally, the random access memory is in the form of computer chips. Usually, the contents of RAM are accessible faster than any other type of information storage, but are lost every time the computer is turned off. Below are pictures of a typical desktop RAM on the left and a smaller laptop RAM on the right. Hard disk. A hard disk drive, hard disk, or hard drive is a data storage device for computers which uses magnetic storage to store data. The capacity of a hard drive is usually measured in gigabytes. However, hard disk capacity can also be measured in terabytes when the capacity is over 1,000 gigabytes. A gigabyte is 1,000 megabytes and a megabyte is 1 million bytes, which means that a gigabyte is 1 billion bytes. Some hard drives are so large that their capacity is measured in terabytes, where 1 terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes. Below are 3 pictures of hard drives. The old style IDE hard drive is on the left, and you'll notice there are pin connectors on it, which make it a little more difficult for those because those can also break at times. Old style SATA hard drive in the center, and a new style SSD drive. The two on the left are magnetic drives that can be damaged, whereas the one on the right, the SSD drive, is much faster and less chance to be damaged because there's no moving parts. CD-ROM, DVD, optical drive. An optical drive is usually a CD drive or DVD drive. Optical means it uses lenses. The drive uses a light called a laser. A laser is the most exact and powerful sort of light, but the laser in the drive is very, very small. The CD or DVD disc is similar to a mirror, and the laser light reflects off of it. The disc has a very small codes written on it. The drive has very small camera lenses besides the laser, which can read the codes. Another part of the drive is plugged into the computer by a wire inside, and the code goes through the wire as a signal to the computer. Below are three types of CD drives. The IDE SATA, which is the older desktop computer drives. In the middle is a newer SATA drive, which is a little smaller. You'll find those in laptops and newer computers, possibly all-in-one computers. And on the right is the USB portable style DVD or CD drive. Those can be plugged into any computer. Internal power cables. All components inside a computer need some form of power. Devices such as a hard drive and DVD drives use one of the types of connections below. Older computers use the Molex connection, which is 4 pins, which is on the left, and it's a white connection. On the right, you'll see a SATA connection, which is on most new computers nowadays, and it's usually a black connection. Data cables. Data cables transfer information from one computer component to another. Older computers have what's called an IDE cable. The cable is much larger and connects to the device or component inside the computer through pins. What makes this older is that it's slower and is more of a chance for the data cable or the pins actually to break. Newer cables are called SATA cables, and they're much thinner, much faster, and since there are no direct pins to connect to, there's less of a chance of them to break. Power supplies. Power supplies are what give electrical power to the computer itself. Depending on what type of computer you have, the size of the power supply can vary. You'll see here a couple of sample power supplies. Usually they'll have an electrical cord that will need to plug into the back of it, a power cord, and some of them will have an on-off switch which you can turn off in case it's needed. Motherboard. Everything in a computer in some format is connected to the motherboard. Below is a picture of a motherboard and some components that you'll see. The motherboard itself has several screws, usually about 6 to 8. They're called mounting screw holes that will connect the motherboard to the case. Next to that, there will be some pins where you can connect little cables that will connect to the front of the case of the computer, which is where you have your push power button and some lights that will be flashing when the computer is running. Towards the top, you'll see 24-pin power connector. That is where the power supply connects to the motherboard and gives electrical power to all the components. The Cmos Battery is a little round, looks like a watch battery that will give the computer some power even when it's not plugged into an outlet. It's able to store date and time and certain other features. Next to that is the SATA connectors. Those are where the hard drives and the CD-ROMs are plugged into. To the right, you'll see some slots called PCI slots. Those are where you can add video cards or other components to your computer. Towards the bottom, you'll see microphone ports, headphone ports, subwoofer ports. There are several USB ports. That's where you can connect external devices. There will be video ports. This one has a DVI connector, an HDMI connector, and an RJ45 port, which is where you would connect a network cable. In the middle of the motherboard, you'll see a lever and a silver type of cover. That's where the CPU goes and the socket for the CPU. Right below there is a 4-pin ATX power connector. That power connector is again from the power supply and gives the computer a little more power to power the CPU and any extra components that you may have put in. And lastly, towards the top, you'll see here it says 4 RAM slots. That's where the memory gets put in. CPU, Central Processing Unit. CPUs send signals to control other parts of the computer, almost like how a brain controls a body. It is an electronic machine that works on a list of computer things to do, called instructions. It reads the list of instructions and executes each one in order. A list of instructions that a CPU can run is a computer program. Below are 3 samples of CPUs. On the left, you'll see an Intel and AMD CPU. Those are the main brands of CPUs. In the middle, you'll see an old-style CPU with pins. Old-style CPUs with pins were a little slower and a little more fragile because those pins can easily bend and break. On the right side, the newer style CPUs are faster, and you'll see that there are no pins, so it'll be a little more difficult for those to fail and break. Thank you for watching our presentation. I hope that next time we can do this live like we have done in the past. Have a great day.